guys, welcome to another video, Blended 4x4 Adventures. Today's episode we're going to be covering the rig that we've got. It's a 2006 model Toyota Prado 120 series. Now I've had this car for about 6 years, and probably about the last 4 years I've actually spent modifying it, getting up to where it is now. Capable, four-wheel drive, reliable. I've spent some money on it. Just like to say now that none of the items in this vehicle were sponsored or paid for by anyone else. I paid for them out of my own pocket, and everything I run through on this vehicle is what I think is a good basis to run on basic family four-wheel drives. We haven't got a big budget. We're not going across the Simpson Desert, you know, we're not going to go to the Gibb River, Canning Stock Road, nothing crazy like that. We'd love to, down the track maybe, but for now this is just a family weekender adventurer. Take us out, show the kids the bush, bit of the outback, and see where we go from there. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy the video. Righto, let's kick it off with the front of the car. As you can see, she hasn't got the standard Sovereign bar on it. It didn't actually come with one, GX. This had a plastic bumper on it. I've gone with the MCC rocker bar from Sports Range 4x4. I've had this bar on here now 4 years. Reason why I went with this one, it's winch compatible and it has recovery points up here. Now, I can't remember what the rating for these recovery points are, but believe me, they have pulled this car out several times. I've snatched off these, I've double line pulled with the winch off of these several times, and I haven't had an issue. The other thing you can see on the front as well, I've got aftermarket headlights. These are eBay special from Mars Performance, I believe. They've been on the car now probably as long as the bar has. I believe they've been on there for 4.5 years. Awesome running light. They've got the halo LEDs as a daytime running light. They've also got the ability to put HIDs in them because they have the projector lenses. My only issue with these headlights is after about 2 years of having them in there, I was doing a lot of corrugations, a lot of forward driving, a lot of, you know, mud, sand, moisture. It's got into them. Now, I don't know whether the seal's gone, but if you can see in the bottom corner here, there is some dust pooling in the bottom of the headlight. Same on this side. This one has a bit of condensation in it. So, I mean, you know, they were 600 bucks. Who cares? They look cool. The other thing you can see is I've got the aftermarket grill in here. That's gone. Actually ordered a new one. There's a new one coming. That one broke a couple of months ago now. Now, the aerial on the front, I'll just run you through it. This is my AM/FM aerial, because anybody that has a 120 series Prado knows that the AM/FM antennas run through the rear windows, the glass. They've got the antennas in them. So when you're out bush, when you're out camping, basically once you get out the Great Eastern Highway, you got that sign on the left that says you're leaving Perth, bye bye bye. These radio reception just cuts out. This one here, I can drive out to York, I can drive Lancelin, and still just get radio from Perth with this antenna. Previously, the ones in the windows, you couldn't even get past, say, Wilbinga, up that way, Two Rocks, and the radio would start cutting out. The other radio, the other aerial, sorry, you can see up the top there, that is a GME 2.1 decibel, I believe. That is mounted up there. I did have a big one on the bull bar, stupid stuck up like this. I didn't like the look of it, and to be honest with you, I didn't get as much range. I think I get better range with that aerial, with the two-way I have in the car, especially mounted up there. It does lay flat, obviously drive through, put in the carport, stuff like that. But yeah, that's what that one is. As you can see, she does have a bonnet scoop on her. Keen eyes will notice that that's off a XY GTHO Falcon. And yes, it is bolted to the intercooler, and yes, it does shake. That actually works. That was a laugh one weekend we had. I had to kick around the shed, and a few of my mates were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could bolt that to your bonnet? And I was like, yeah, because these vehicles have a top-down intercooler. The vents for the intercooler run through the bonnet heats up, hot air in the intercooler, bad news intake temps, performance, all the rest of it, especially when you're in low range on the beach. So we had a laugh one day, we're like, you know what, we've got a better idea, let's try and bolt it to the intercooler so it actually shakes like a shaker scoop would. And lo and behold, a few measurements, a couple of bits of aluminium from the metal shop down here, and yeah, we cut a hole in the bonnet, mounted it, and it actually worked. I believe it dropped my intake temperatures trying to make me think now. As about 100 k's on the freeway, my intake temperatures dropped from, I can't remember what they were, but anyway, they came down by about 10 degrees. I have thought about putting a thermo fan in it for low range when you're on the beach, low range driving. Obviously, you haven't got as much speed, but you put a lot of load on the engine. But I haven't needed one, so I'm not going to put one in there yet. As for the winch, in the front here, we run it's a Runva 11 XP. That has been in there now for 2-3 years, and it hasn't let me down. I've never had an issue with it. I've had, like I said, mud up to here. It's been sunk. It's been full of sea water, river crossings, red dirt from the pill brush, stuff like that, and it hasn't let me down. The day it stops working is the day I'll get another one. But I'm a firm believer in having a winch, because the day you don't need it is the day you're going to wish you had one. And honestly, if you're that stuck where you need a winch, I've seen several people on the beach stuck, and they wish they had a winch. Next minute their car's swamped with water and insurance and blah, 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 blah. But if you know, winches are expensive, I get that. I think this one was 1,100 bucks, 1,200 bucks. I put it in, I used it once when I was bogged, and I had water coming in, and it saved my car. So at the end of the day, for $1,100, it's cheap insurance. I got my car out, I didn't lose it. Got a bit of water on the carpet, it's a big deal. So that winch has been in there, like I said, now 3 years. It's bulletproof, it saved me so many times. It does have the Factor 55 knuckle on the front for putting the, what do you call them, these things, bow shackles through. I put that on afterwards because I didn't like the look of the hook hanging down the front. I mean, it was cool with the red tag off and everything, but this is just way much better. And I've also noticed I can also get a soft shackle through this now. It is remote controlled from inside the cab. So yeah, that controls behind the seat, and I also have the wide remote here. Fog lights in the front, they are factory with the bar work. Righto, like I said, fog lights in the front here, they are factory for the MCC bar. Now, I've upgraded the lights in here to steady LEDs. They've got a massive, I don't know what you call it, heat sink on the back. I can't remember the name of them, but I don't know if you noticed as well, but I don't actually run spotlights on the front of this car at all. I did have a big set of light force on there, and I took them off because I broke one. And when I upgraded these fog lights to these LED steady upgraded ones, I didn't actually have the need for the spotlights anymore. These shine out far enough down the road that I don't actually need the spotlights anymore. And also up on the roof, I don't know if you can see that, there's a curved light bar. That curved light bar has the spot and spread option. On the outside there, you can see it's got the spread beam LEDs on the outside, and it's got the spot that runs all the way down the middle of it. Now, when you come down here, obviously I've got the Snorkel mounted to the car. Right, now down to the Snorkel. This is a eBay item. I installed this myself. It was fairly straightforward. Get the template laid across the guard, drill your hole. Now, anyone that wants to attempt it on a snorkel yourself, can be a very straightforward install, provided you have a bit of mechanical knowledge. Now, my advice for anyone installing a snorkel would be to measure 400 times and cut once, because you don't want to be having the template off by that much and then having to get the Dremel out and tidy up the hole, or not having a Dremel, and it can turn into a nightmare real quick. And when you go to drill your hole, if you slip down the guard with the drill bit or the hole saw, and it's going to ruin your day. So make sure you measure a lot of times, get it all exactly spot on, and take your time. This will be a tricky job, but at the end of the day, it is fairly straightforward. Now, bringing up the snorkel head here. I used to run a filter sock over my snorkel when I used to do dusty tracks. Pilbara, Goldfields, that sort of area. Red dirt likes to clog up your paper filters. A few months ago, I stumbled across this one on eBay from Air On Board. It's actually a replacement grill. So, you know, the filter socks that sit over there, they're a fabric. They clamp on, however they do it, sit around here. Problem I had was when you're going down tight tracks with sticks and trees hanging off the side, they'd hit the foam and they'd tear it apart. So I stopped running them and I was looking for all different sorts of options. And yeah, like I said, I come across this on eBay. It was about $40, I believe. And what it is a replacement grill for your snorkel head. And inside, bang, foam filter. Now this comes with 3 red, which are fine filter, and 3 green, which are coarse filters. You can see that's been on the car now for about 4 months, I think. Obviously a bit of dust in it from the weekend. But that, the dust, yeah. So that has, and it stops the fine dust before it buggers up my air cleaner inside my engine. A little bit of insurance. Obviously it comes with the cage on it, so I mean, yeah, still going to get sticks and stuff go through here, but at the end of the day, for a $30 investment over $60, $70, I think each, the other ones are, I reckon I like this. Yeah, I haven't tried the other green socks in it yet. I've only run the red ones. I have thought about running a bit of filter oil in it, you know, the K&N spray on filter oil, just make it a bit stickier, stop a lot more finer dust, and yeah, the air cleaner's lasted a lot longer than it normally would on the dusty runs. Now, come down the side of the car here. You can see I've obviously got the chrome mirrors there off a GXL. Up the top there, we've got a high lift farm jack, kangaroo jack, whatever you want to call them, and my shovel holder. Now, I've had that on there the life of the car. I've never had the shovel off. Never needed to take it off. I've got the winch on the front obviously, and I do run a set of Max Tracks. The Max Tracks 2, 4 of them, they get mounted to the other side on the roof rack. Now the roof rack is a bit old and ancient. That's due to come off shortly and get powder coated and repainted. As you can see, it's all rusted down the side. I've had that on there now for, same thing, 4 years, 5 years. That's a Killer Concepts one. Now, the reason why I like this rack is it has a full spine that runs from the front to the back, mounts in 3 points to the original factory Prado mounts. That part is steel. This part of the roof rack is aluminium. So the cage is aluminium and you can move it forwards, backwards, left, right. It's fully adjustable on this. It's not bolted to 1 point. So that's why I like that rack. As you can see, I've got the spare tire up the top there. That's just mounted to the roof rack. That does come off. Obviously, I know roof weights, depending on what you're carrying, I don't like overloading the roof too much. So that, when we go out on the weekenders, that goes up there. I do have the standard spare steel wheel on the back still. Anyone with the Prado knows that once you put a heavy tyre on the back, or even the factory tyre, the doors tend to drop a bit and you've got to put spacers in them to tweak them up. My door has dropped a bit, but I'm not putting a big heavy tyre on the back, so that's all right. I run the standard steel tyre on the back still, so I can put a rubbish bag on there. Let's go around the back and we'll have a look at that now anyway. Here we are around the back of the car now. So like I said before, I have the spare tyre at the top there, which is the same diameter, same tyres as I run on the car. And I do keep the factory steel spare on the back, just for mounting my rubbish bag. Horse trail rubbish bag on the back. Take the rubbish out of the bush when you go, look after it. The tail lights, I don't know if you noticed these aren't factory 120s anymore. These are from America. In America, Toyota Prados are not sold in a diesel form. They are sold as a Lexus GX 470 with a petrol V8 in it. Now, a couple of years back, I cracked one of my tail lights and I was having a look around and I seen these American ones and I thought they look cool. They're just something different. They kind of look like the new 150 tail lights, but they're different and they're on a 120. I did have to obviously wire in the reverse lights. In Australia and America, we run different tail light systems. So the indicators in America are their reverse lights, brake lights, tail lights. So these had to be rewired. Obviously now I've got brake, tail and indicator, and I've got a spotlight, flush mounted work light down here, which is a reverse light, and these little, I don't know what you call them, rock lights. I just had them in there anyway. At night time when you're reversed, it's awesome for the campsite because these ones here actually light a fair way out here, and these ones are a spotlight back. I mean, it's great when you know, go to the loo in the middle of the night behind the car. Whatever like that. As you can see, I've still got the recovery hitching from the weekend. That's just road safe one, I believe. That goes in the tow bar. That's the trailer plug and my Anderson plug that runs the camp trailer. And the camp trailer, I'll do a video on that later on. We built that ourselves. Now the exhaust system on this is 3-inch. Mandrel blend from the back of the turbo, dump pipe down to the back of the car's muffler, cat, usual stuff. It does sound, it's relatively good, but on a performance and fuel economy wise, it woke the car up amazingly. It just lets it breathe a lot better, flows a lot better, and it's just, yeah, fuel economy is amazing now. I get about, with the trailer on, loaded up, me and the missus, 4 kids, fridge. If the tyres on the top obviously drag, stuff like that, but I normally run a canvas waterproof bag up top, which runs sleeping bags, pillows, blankets, that sort of stuff on the roof if the tyre's not on there, depending on where we're going. Economy wise, with the trailer on, I get about 13.1, 13.4 per 100 on the highway. Without the trailer on, she comes down to about 12.1. But obviously running the tyres, I do 33s, well 32s point, whatever they are, they're not a full 33. They are a bit of a heavy tyre, they do have a bit of fuel economy, but in all honesty, they are good for what I use them for. We'll get to the tyres later on. In the back of the car, standard usual stuff. Prado, I run a MT60F angle freezer. That's more than big enough to keep, you know, the beers cold, Mrs. Wine, all the food and snacks for the kids. I cry vac all my meat before we go away on big long trips. If it's like 2 days overnight or something like that, I normally put all the colder stuff, we keep it on the bottom, beers on top, that sort of stuff, so the fridge doesn't get too mixed up. I haven't needed a bigger fridge yet. Who knows, down the track we might do. Obviously recovery gear's in the car from the weekend. I normally have a seat here because we obviously have, like I said, it's me, the missus and 4 kids, hence blended 4x4 adventure. We've got a big blended family. So normally extra kid sits in the back here. I use the large, the 60-40 split rear seat, so I use the 60 seat, so at least whoever's sitting in the back has a bit more room. It can get a bit squishy in there on the longer trips, but they chop and change and like to swap around where they want. LED light up the back here. I used to have a table on here, took that off. Well, it fell off, I can't remember. That LED is wired into my interior lights. So, campsite, obviously, need to get something out the fridge. Flick the interior light on, got an LED light up here, and this also lights up the whole back of the car so you can see what you're doing in the dark. Now, if you come in here, I'll show you what I've done in the back. So the dual battery system for this car runs all the way down and into this control box here. You can see it there. There it is. So 12 volt control box right there. That runs off a switch in the front of the car. The angle plugs into that. 2 USBs at the bottom and Anderson plug. 15 amp breaker. The switch isn't on at the front at the moment, but you've got a little button here. You turn that on and digital readout LED display just there. So little pocket obviously down here for the jack. I've got the Kangaroo high lift jack on the side. I don't need it. I will be putting a bottle jack in this later on, taking the factory Toyota one out. All right, let's run through the wheels and tyres on this vehicle. Probably going to get a lot of hate for this, and it honestly doesn't bother me. These are factory 17-inch Nissan Patrol GU alloy wheels. Now the reason why these are on the car is A, I got them cheap, and B, I wanted to run a wider tyre. The factory steel alloys on this car was 7.5 inches wide. I believe these are 8s, I think. I can't remember. And I run a 285 7017 Achilles Desert Hawk XMT mud terrain. Now, the reason why I put these wheels on the car is for the offset. To run muddies on the front of these 120s or 33-inch wider tyres for better traction, you will scrub on your upper control arms and on the mud flaps. Depending on your lift, there is a lot of other factors to consider with this. These alloys, I believe, are a 0 offset. These Prados run a -15 from memory. Please, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments below. These have been on the car, like I said, for 4 years. The reason why I put them on there is to get the wider, larger tyre on there without having to scrub. Now, the suspension in this car, I have got, come around here, I have got Black Hawk upper control arms. These have the offset ball joint to get the wheel alignment back when you do a lift. The lift kit in this car, in the front, is Bilstein 5-inch adjustable coilover with the rated springs and shocks. These are out of a Hilux. Can't remember what year and model, but a lot of the 120 series and I believe some of the 90 series Prado, the suspension setups in them in the front is similar to a Hilux. So these are actually out of a Hilux. They do wind right up to 5 inch. I've had this thing jacked right up and it is ridiculous. The CVs do get a bit of hurt when you're up that high. I haven't had any issues with them. I run these at 2 inch in the front. Simple for the fact is to keep it legal on the road. It does also have, if you look down there, this is a diff drop kit put in, obviously just to recorrect a bit of the CV angle that we lost when we put the lift kit in. I do some pretty gnarly forward drive and I've jumped this thing, as you can see at the start of the video, with this suspension in the front. She's been, yeah, as you can see, wheels up at the start, not an issue. Yeah, like I said, with the bigger tyres on it, I don't get any scrub from the upper control arms now. The mud flaps, I did take the factory ones off. I have got some aftermarket ones to go on at home. Clearly for the fact is, like I said, you put the big muddies on it, they are going to scrub on the factory mud flaps, but you can put aftermarket ones on it, hence make it legal. So that's the wheels and suspension in the front. Now we'll go around the back because I have run a different suspension setup in the rear of this car and I'll explain why. So as you can see, the rear of the car flexes pretty damn good for, well, people call a soccer mum's car. Come around this side, and the back here, we run Tough Dog 2 inch, 450 kilo load rated springs with the appropriate shock absorber. They're Tough Dog, I believe they're foam sole. They're a bit old now, as you can see by the bushes. They're starting to crack out. They've been in there 5 years now. The suspension in the back of this car has never, ever, ever let me down. As for the brakes, I actually run a cross-drilled and slotted rotor on the rear and also on the front. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. We'll give it a shot. No, not going to be able to get you down that low. But anyway, you can have a look in there. So yeah, cross-drilled slotted rotors in the front, cross-drilled and slotted rotors in the rear. The reason why I run that is this car weighs fully loaded close to 2.9 tonne, and I found that the stopping performance with the factory discs just wasn't there. I've had them on there for a fair while now, and you hear a lot of people saying, you know, when you get the sand and the rocks get stuck in it and they groove and you can't cut them, you know, you can't remachine your discs. And I'm like, well, for the price I paid for these discs and pads set up, they've been on there now for 3 years. I've done one set of pads in it and I haven't had an issue. I haven't had to remachine the discs. I haven't had any deep gouges in them from rocks, from sand getting in there from the beach. I believe that it's because of the slots in the rotors. When you're driving, the way that they're curved actually expels the sand and rocks and crap out of there. So, like, yeah, they haven't let me down. I've replaced the pads once. The thickness of them, they're still within legal thickness. So when they wear down, I'll just go and put another set on it. So yeah, that's the wheels, tyres, suspension setup on it. It is pretty basic. When I say basic, you know, it's not stupid. All this modified linkages and, you know, up and lower control arms and stuff like that, radius arms. It has got an extended brake line in the back just for the flex of the back of the car, which is due to the sway bar obviously being modified to allow for the more flex. But as for the front, just the spring shocks, control arms, diff drop, that's it. Like I said, she's capable. You've seen the videos at the start of this video where I jumped it. Yeah, she gets well used, this thing, and the suspension's never let me down. Obviously 450 kilo constant load rating in the back for the fridge. Mrs. Kids, when we load it right up, we go away. Plus when I put the trailer on the back. But the trailer's for another day. We'll keep you for that one. All right, let's go have a look at the inside. All right, here we are inside the big girl. Now, let's run you through the interior on this car. It is pretty basic, but there is some extra add-ons I've put on it from factory. As you can see, starting over here at the gauge pillar pod mount, this is a pyrometer gauge. So these are both auto meter gauges. This is exhaust gas temperature gauge. So this car runs extra boost. And I'll explain that in a minute once we get to the engine side of it as well. So yeah, that does my EGTs. That comes out of the exhaust dump pipe just after the turbo, but just before the first bend, I believe. That's the best place to get an accurate reading, because you're not feeding it straight off the turbo. You're getting a nice flow from the exhaust gases through the back of the, just before the bend of the dump pipe, sorry. And this is my boost gauge. So these cars run a factory 12-pound boost, I believe, and sometimes they can get a bit sluggish. This car now runs 18 pounds of boost. It has been doing that reliably now for 5 years, like I said, without an issue with the engine at all. I have spent a fair bit of maintenance on this engine to ensure that it won't, let go, cooling system, regular servicing, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, 18 PSI through this engine is run through a 3-bar GM map sensor off the side of my intercooler now, whereas the factory ones have a 2-bar map sensor. But I'll explain all that later on once we get under the bonnet. Coming down the side of the dash, obviously turbo timer. Like I said, this car runs more boost. Turbo runs a bit harder, so I run a turbo timer when I shut the car off. Car idles down. Helps the bearings and the oil drain. Turbo cool down, bit extended turbo life. Further down here we got light bar. Roof light bar. The driving lights was for my spotlights, but they're not on there anymore, so that doesn't work. And this is the factory 120 series fog light switch, so I got that off of eBay as well. That's for the fog lights in the MCC rocker bar. Now coming back around here, as you can see, dashboard, I've pulled the dials out and I put white face dials in there. I just like the look of them, and put these little TRD logos down there. I like looking at something cool, something different. Like I said, the two-way in this car runs a GME GX3550 from memory. That's it there, that's the handpiece. Everything's on here. The control box is down there under the center console behind the mocker. Yeah, I like it because the simplicity of it, everything's there. If I'm driving, I can hold it like this and I've got everything on my display. Volume's there. That's really loud. And all my menu options, I mount it there to the dashboard. Obviously when I'm driving along, if I don't have to talk to make big long conversations, I can just push my button down while I'm driving and go, yep, copy, cheers mate, no worries. You can see just quick, don't have to take it off, take hands off the steering wheel, just briefly, one finger, yep, copy mate, no worries. Easy simplicity. Now like I said earlier, this is a GX model, so it doesn't even have cruise control. It is the factory manual, and believe it or not, this doesn't even have ABS. That's how based this car is. So as you said, coming across to the dashboard now, this is actually out of a Grande. So these cars from factory have a clock. Watch wipers. So this is a Grande display. It gives me litres per 100. Instant and average. Gives me the compass. Gives me a clock. That compass is pretty accurate when you're on the highway. It goes through. It gives me my range till empty. Average speed. Barometer. So that's barometric pressure. Don't ask me how it does it. I don't know, but it does it. And altimeter. So altitude. 10 metres above sea level, sitting right here. And you can do the times. It also gives you the temperature. I know the temperature sensor is on the front of the grill, just in front of the radiator there. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's pretty close, I think. And yeah, back to litres per 100. So I put that in. That was a couple of $100. It was handy when I put it in. Obviously, if you just know I'm a full fuel economy and all the extra fancy jazzy bits it does. Now the stereo is nothing fancy. Kenwood head unit, touchscreen. Does all the usual shit. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that stuff. Bluetooth. It does have DVD inputs, all the rest of it, but I don't use it for that. I just wanted that fancy touchscreen. You can see down the side here, obviously I made this. This is just a bit of black plastic I had laying around at home. You can get fancy shrouds for them, didn't need it. Factory Toyota dashboard cracks, as per standard in the 120 series. Yeah, speakers, it's got a set of splits in the front, Pioneers. Nothing fancy, I just like a bit of loud music occasionally. And then down there we've got the GME external microphone, external speaker for the two-way system. Come along to the middle now, we've got ARB compressor under the bonnet. We'll get there in a minute. And this here is the most important switch in the whole entire vehicle. The beer fridge. That's right, the beer fridge. So that black box that I showed you in the back of the car earlier that runs the fridge and the Anderson plug, that runs off this switch. So if this is off, there's no power to the back of the car. And I did that for the simplistic fact of, if you pull up somewhere after a run and you don't, you empty your fridge out, you leave it on, it's going to kill your auxiliary battery. At least this way, I can turn it off from in here, so I don't run the fridge all the time off the second battery. As you can see over here, I've got main battery, 12.2 volts, and my auxiliary battery only comes on once that fridge switch is on. So that's a bit of a saver as well. No extra loads coming off that auxiliary battery except for when that switch is on and whenever I'm running at the back. Come further down here, USB ports, Mrs. Phone, kids' iPads, stuff like that. My phone's plugged in the deck obviously because Bluetooth and the hands-free, obviously, talking car thing. Yeah, so that's basically the inside of the car. You can see, it's missing a headrest from the weekend. I've got to put that one back in. She's all pretty basic in here. Like the old saying, keep it simple, stupid. Less stuff to break, less expensive stuff. Yeah, now I'll run you through the engine. Let's go have a look at this. Right, so here we are under the engine bay. Now, like I said earlier, this is a 2006 model 1KZ Toyota Prado. So this is the non-D4D model. This doesn't have the electronic injectors. It doesn't have the piston cracking faults. This is the very last, 2006, 2007, I believe maybe even 2008 is where they changed the engines over and went to the D4D model. This is non-D4D. So this is a older Hilux motor. Come out in your surfs. The surfs, some of the Japanese imports have a different, obviously non-top mount intercooler. Some of the Australian ones didn't have the intercooler at all. I don't know much about the Hilux model, I only know the ones in the Prado. So yeah, this is a standard 3 litre 1KZ TE model Prado. As you can see, like I said earlier, that's the bonnet scoop we made up for it. She shakes with the engine. But yeah, it's pretty bog stock standard under here. Does have the dual battery kits. This is the AGM Century Deep Cycle battery. It's 120 amp hours, and that runs through a REKKR BCDC 1225 right here. Down there, the alternator, that's 120 amp. Sorry, down this side, the alternator, 120 amp aftermarket one. I believe I got that from REKKR. I can't remember the part number. Like I said, I've had this car for modified like this now for 4 years without an issue. The battery on that side is an upgraded one. It is a NZ70 with 810 cold cranking amps of power. Now, the reason why it's got more cold cranking amps is for the winch. Factory batteries on these cars run 600 to 700 cold cranking amps, which is fine for cranking the engine over. But what you have to remember is once you've got the load of a winch on it, you're going to need more amps to power the winch. Even with the engine running, the alternator can only put out so much power, but you need the stored capacity in order to handle the extra load that the winch is going to put on it. So that's why that is an 800 cold cranking amp battery. It fits in the standard position with the standard mounts. It's just a larger capacity inside lead acid battery. A lot of people said to me, why don't you run lithium? Well, I can't see the need for it yet. This battery here was $550. I put this in 3 months ago. The battery before this cost me $400 something, $500. That was an AGM battery as well. That battery lasted me nearly 3.5 years before I had to put this one in, and that was bulletproof. This, like I said, this car doesn't get used as a daily. It is a weekender. So the charge cycle for the AGM battery, yes, it's charging when the car's on, but the BCDC looks after that. If it doesn't need charge, it doesn't get charged. Yeah, so I don't need to put a lithium under the bonnet yet. I don't warrant spending that sort of money just to run a fridge. I can't see the need for it. The car has no solar on it. It has got a MPPT solar charger in the back if I want to hook my solar panels up to it. If it goes flat, if I leave the stereo on overnight, at camp like that. Now, onto the engine itself. Like I said, This car runs 18 pounds of boost. I have had it up maximum at 22 pounds of boost. The turbo's only good for 22 pounds. It's only a tiny little CT28, I believe, Toyota factory unit. It has got the flow from the exhaust, so it does, you know, it can handle a bit more boost. I've wound it up. Simple, wound it up just with the boost tee. Like most older model turbo cars, you can wind them up, put the boost tee on it. Now, when you come around this side, like I said earlier, this has a 3-bar map sensor off a GM. Bolted to the side of the intercooler here. The factory wires are here. That's the 3-bar map sensor. Same as the 2-bar, except 3-bar. It tricks the computer. Sorry, not the computer. It tricks the fuel pump, because the fuel pump on these is electronic controlled. This is the only electronics on this engine is the fuel pump. I don't know how it works. It's got the electronic throttle body on it, electronic fuel pump. So obviously you can't adjust spill valves. Like, you know, you can't do your adjust the fuel you can with your traditional mechanical diesels. So after a bit of research, you know, I found you can put diodes into the back of the fuel pumps, into the 2 solenoids here to do the same thing. That was a bit beyond me. I found this works, and we've had it on the dyno and it runs fine. 18 pounds of boost. I find there's not much difference between 18, 20 pound, 22 pound. Yeah, it sounds good, it screams, but performance wise, the sand, climbing hills doesn't need it. 18 pounds is happy medium. Everything else, the engine bay is pretty stock. All the red hoses are silicon. I've upgraded the rubber ones to basically the ones I could get. Can't get the rubber one for here. This is a kit that I got from over east as well, I believe. A parts shop online. Silicon hoses, I believe they just last a bit longer than rubber. I have got all the rubber hoses at home. When we go long trips, they go in with spares, same as the old belts off this car, they're in as spares. When these belts get replaced, I put them as spares and throw the old ones out. It's just a process. It's got 282,000 Ks on it. Now that is fairly low kilometres for one of these cars. I've seen them up around 350, 400. They do have cylinder head issues. I have heard that. Like I said, good maintenance. You'll probably be able to extend the life of the cylinder head a bit longer than when they let go. This runs Toyota Red coolant. I've never had a head issue. I haven't had a problem with this engine at all, but it's regularly maintained. I know it doesn't look like that just because I've come back from the mud on the weekend, having a bit of a blast with the kids. Like I said, DC charger, the extra wiring, upgraded battery clamp, to run all the wires for obviously lights, DC chargers, extra stuff like that. The DC charger does run fused both sides, input and output, so from here and then out of there to the fridge at the back, the control box. MIDI fuses, waterproof in these little holders. The only other thing under the engine bay is my ARB compressor, single piston as you call them. That's been in there, same thing, you know, 4 years. I don't have a problem with it, I never have. Yeah, it's been underwater God knows how many times. You can see the state of it. It's covered in rubbish, but it runs. I actually bought that second hand. I didn't buy that brand new. When it dies, I'll get a new one. Fair enough, I'll get a newer model, but I don't have a problem with that yet. I see a lot of people out there, you know, they go on, they have this and then they go and put a brand new one in there, and it's like, what do they do with the old one? Well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm a firm believer in that. So yeah, that's my ARB compressor. She does the 33s, you know, same amount of time as you can grab them portable ones that you sort of drag around the car and clip onto your battery and all that sort of stuff. For the simplicity, I'll put my bonnet, plug my hose in, do my tyres, turn it off, put the hose away. It's there, it's mounted. I did have air horns on it under the old bumper, under the old bull bar, sorry. Did have air horns on it, so that's the other solenoid. It has got the external wiring for diff lockers and that sort of stuff. I don't need diff lockers in this car. It's got the factory LSD in the back. I shimmed it up when I replaced it about 2 years ago. I snapped the cranwheel and pinion in it. I put a second-hand factory diff out, the REKKRs into it, replace the shims, do bearings, all that before we put it in. And I haven't had a problem with it. Obviously no locker in the front, IRS. I'm not a fan of putting the lockers in it till you need it. I don't need a locker. I've never needed a locker. Some people swear by them, some people don't. That's just personal preference. It's my personal preference. I believe they put extra load on your CVs with an IRS front car. So yeah, no lockers in this car at all. And yeah, as for the engine, she's like I said, pretty stock standard, apart from she gets fed a little bit more boost. Make it breathe better, make it go a bit quicker, and just a bit better fuel economy, really. I don't know if you can see up there as well, like I said earlier, these are the factory intakes for the intercooler. They run through the bonnet, come out here. They actually still work. So when the bonnet's shut, they shoot air in here. That's for cold air, and so it's still getting a lot of air through the intercooler when we're off-road. Yeah, down the highway driving, she sits, oh, what, 250 degrees on the EGTs, and then, so loaded up, just for example, we went to Dwelling Up 2 weekends ago with the camp trailer on the back. Full loaded up, 6 people in the car, 2 full tanks of juice. So this has twin 90 litre fuel tanks in it, holds 180 litres of diesel. So that's a lot of fuel. The car was basically loaded like it should do to go camping, and going up, I don't know if you've ever been to Dwelling Up, heading from Pinjarra up that big hill, she was doing about 350 to, I think it peaked at about 400 degrees on the EGTs. So I'm pretty happy with that. She used to run a lot hotter, doing a lot less work. She used to be up around the 500s. Occasionally, I have seen 600 in this car on the beach, going pretty hard in some gnarly, soft, slow speed stuff. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Like I said, the exhaust is designed to flow, a bit more boost, breathes better. But yeah, so that's the rundown on the car, on the engine bay. All right, guys, so that's the basic rundown of our 2006 model 120 series Prado. Just a couple of things I forgot, just 2 little bits and pieces. License plates, REKKR. That is from the Norse mythology, so Vikings, Norway, that sort of area. They mean warrior man. Not by the job they're given, but by feats of accomplishments. That's just the way I see this car. The feats and what this car has accomplished over the years I've had it, I thought they were a worthy plate. Obviously, I have Norwegian background, Viking heritage, that sort of stuff in my family. I thought, you know what, that's something cool. That's what they're on there. As for the stickers on the doors, zombie outbreak response vehicle, that was a bit of a joke a few years ago. When you're seeing at the start of the video, I had that big massive 4-post bull bar on here, that big stupid tough bar. We put that on there, and every comment I got from every single person that's seen the car was, what are you trying to do, kill zombies? And I was like, you know what, that's funny. I mean, this was at the time The Walking Dead come out, that sort of stuff, so everyone was zombie mad. So mate had a sticker shop. I said to him, can you do me up some zombie stickers just for the doors as a laugh? So we made them up. They've been on there 6 years. They've been on there since I got this car. Put that bull bar on it. I don't know what vinyl he used, but they have been scratched, beaten, sunk, dented, bent, everything. And they're still holding up to this day. I mean, if I peel them off now, they'll probably still be the logo will still be in the paint. That's how old they are. But you know what? They've protected the doors to a certain extent, and they just look cool. Everybody knows this car. Everybody that sees this driving around that knows me knows this is my car. You cannot miss this thing on the road. So yeah, basically that's it. Hope to see you out on the track soon. Thanks for watching the video. Blended 4x4 adventures. Hit like, give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe down the bottom there. Quick rundown on the channel, just follow me here. So blended 4x4 adventures, the missus come up with it. Me and my 2 stepdaughters, we wanted to make the kids wanted to make a YouTube video. I was like, let's give it a crack. I don't do it fancy. I've got 2 GoPros, stand from Big Dub, a couple of bits and pieces. Basically, it's about the simple things for camping with a family. There's me, my missus, the 4 stepkids. We go out and we enjoy the outdoors. I had the car obviously before I was with my missus and kids, but that was a little while ago now. The car's now set up a bit different from then. This is the video I've done now on it. This is for camping with a family. Like I said, me and the missus, 4 kids get in this car comfortably. We go away 2-3 days at a time, overnighters, up to the missus' family farm, which is 2 hours north of Perth. Quite comfortably, kids quite comfortably sit in the car. You know, cruise up there, it's all good. The next video hopefully I'll do for you is the camp trailer I built. Now, we have a couple of motorbikes. We like to go out riding as a family, go adventuring, and in order to go away camping, we just couldn't get it all in this vehicle. So we went up to Ledge Point one weekend. I had to hire a trailer, put the motorbikes in, stack all the plastic tubs in it, put the gazebo in, put this in, put that in. And personally, it was a nightmare. There had to be an easier way. So I went out and I bought myself a trailer. And then I then modified that to suit our needs. It can carry the motorbikes. I can still use it for, you know, doing tip runs. I can go down and get firewood with it. We want to load up, I can put all the swags on it. It's got solar, it's got battery, it's got shower, toilet, water. It's got a camp kitchen, it's got a camp oven. But anyway, that's for another video. So I hope you like the videos so far, guys. I'm learning this. I'm new to this sort of YouTube stuff. But yeah, stay tuned. Next video will hopefully be the trailer. If not, we'll hopefully get some more videos up with the missus and kids, us out camping. Long weekend tomorrow. I don't know where we're going to go. Probably go out, take some friends out for a drive, and I'm hoping. Take the cameras, obviously, do some videoing. But yeah, I hope you like the review of the rig. Thumbs up. Feel free to comment below anything I got wrong. Let me know, guys. It's all a learning curve. Cheers.